Hey friends, Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Hope you're well. Check it out, bros. It's the new 1 million. Night Elixir. That doesn't say it there. Night Elixir. It does say it right there. So this is definitely the fragrance for the Nightman, which means that in the future there needs to be a 1 million Day Elixir. Of course, for the Dayman. If you know, you know. I'm gonna have this one linked in the description below. I ordered it from Europe, as is the case oftentimes with these new releases. They do get it first. Let's go ahead and knock this presentation out really quickly. Then I'm gonna break this one down, and it is different. Le box. On the front, you have the name of the house, the name of the fragrance size and concentration. It is a parfum elixir. Yes, of course. Has a nice gradient, gold at the bottom, black up top. On top of the box, you have the little R logo, nothing on the sides. On the back, a tiny amount of information, including that this is a 90% natural origin formula. Fantastic. I do wonder if it gets like really low, if they still have it on there. It's like 47% natural origin. Just leave that off. On the bottom, you've got your ingredients and also your badge code and barcode. Badge code 53531. And here we got the bottle. On the front, you have that familiar 1 million Elixir Illuminati-esque triangle. Has a really nice gradient. Black up top, gold at the bottom. I think it looks really, really cool. It is, of course, a fingerprint magnet. And that gradient wraps all the way around the bottle. So it goes into the glass itself. Up top, you have the R on the atomizer, and then on the bottom, a little more info. Your badge code is etched into the glass on the back of the bottle at the bottom. And let's go ahead and do a couple sprays. Here we go. Same as always. So this one has a really interesting note breakdown for one main reason. Maple syrup. That's right, this fragrance is Canadian. Delicious. I do love maple syrup, but like the real maple syrup, not the high fructose corn syrup. I'm talking about the real stuff. It's so good. So yeah, this does have maple syrup as one of the notes in the fragrance, which is not common. I think is pretty comfortable to say. But how does that actually come across and how does it smell? This is gonna catch you by surprise, guys, so gird your loins. Grab them and hold on tight, because this fragrance, a Rabanne 1 million that is named Night Elixir, opens up unbelievably loud and sweet. What do you mean everybody knew that already? Yeah, this thing opens up with a pop. It is forceful when you first spray it on, tester strip or skin or clothing or wherever else fragrances can be sprayed. It's got this lift to it, like this really super zingy pop when you first spray it on, even a little bit cooling to an extent, which does give it this hint of brightness when you first spray it on. Now that doesn't last for a super long time or anything, but that's how it hits your nose immediately when you first spray it on. And one other thing, this is the type of fragrance, especially there in the opening, where if you get a few big whiffs in a row, your nose is gonna tap out. We're talking full on like UFC 1 style where nobody knew what they were doing. It's just gonna tap out immediately because it gets overwhelmed. Yeah, your nose is just gonna be like, nope, shut off. No thanks, bud. Just the lights go out in Georgia, man. You're not gonna be smelling anything. So if you do spray this directly on and you start huffing, just be aware that your nose might get overloaded pretty quick. Really quickly, it also takes on kind of like a spicy root beer adjacent kind of scent profile for a few minutes in the opening there. I wanted to say sarsaparilla because that sounds cooler, but it's more root beer. And when I say root beer, don't go like, oh, well that means it must smell like Armani Code Profumo, because that one had kind of a root beer thing, right? No, it's different than that, but it does remind me a little bit of a root beer-esque, like I said, adjacent kind of vibe in the opening there for a little bit. It just kind of flickers between citrus sparkle and sweet spice, and then that very faint mentholated effect kind of underneath it. So it has this like fizzy, dark, sweet sort of sensation for a while in the opening. Now that aspect doesn't last for too terribly long. It starts to dial back, and as it does, it's replaced by one of the biggest parts of this fragrance. That's right, the central identity begins to reveal itself. Sounds way too intense for what this actually is. You still have that sweetness in here wrapped around a sparkling cinnamon. You get some vanilla that starts to come out as well, but it's that maple syrup note that makes itself known. Now it's not like a fully thick pancake syrup kind of vibe. That's not what you get initially anyway. At this point, it's almost like a lightly burnt sugar. you know, just kind of crisped up along the edges. You could almost think of it like a creme brulee, but without the custard underneath. You know, take that sugar and just take a blowtorch just right to the top and just sear the edges. That's how it comes across. So you get this coziness, but like I said, a light little burnt edge to it. And it has a gourmand lean as well that comes in more and more the more that it dries down on your skin. It comes across almost edible. And I'm gonna tell you guys, if you do not like sweet fragrances, you probably wanna stay away from this one, okay? Because it is sweet in the opening and that continues on into the dry down. It does change, which we'll get to, but it is sweet. To be fair, it is a Rabanne. It is in the 1 million line, so you know, you probably should expect that going in, but you know yourself better than anybody, but hopefully. And so if you really hate those sweet scents, you know, very vanilla forward, or a lot of the ones that have come out here recently, this one's probably not gonna be for you. Now into the mid, we are gonna get all up in that syrup. But before that, codes. Just so quick, bros. I've got codes to save you additional money at a bunch of different fragrance discounters. JOMASHOP, Fragflex, the Perfume Box, and more. So anytime you shop at these stores, use these codes. The JOMASHOP ones, though, only work within the JOMASHOP app. The other codes you can use like normal. So once we hit the mid, the fragrance warms up a bit more. That sparkle that it has in the opening, that starts to fade. That early cooling lift that it has, that pretty much goes away. And the fragrance starts to become denser, cozier, more enveloping the way that it comes off your skin. And this is where that maple syrup really starts to come across more like maple syrup. You don't get as much of that burnt sugar effect. It's still there kind of lingering in the background, but you don't get it as clearly as in that, you know, transitional point in the opening. It comes across a little bit warmer, a little bit, like I said before, cozier, and it starts to take on a little bit of a toffee-like kind of sweet vibe as well, which of course, caramel, toffee, chestnut, all of this stuff really popular right now. This one to me, a little more, like I said, in that toffee kind of vein, but it could remind you a little bit of fragrances that use other notes that are, you know, kind of similar to that. It still has that gourmand feel in the mid, not full on like pastry that you're eating or anything like that. You've got spice, amber, vanilla, you know, that toffee sort of sweetness, crisp sugar. You've got maple syrup, all of that kind of blending together into this, again, almost edible haze at times in the mid. And that amber is going to be coming from the benzo and the labdanum in the base. They just kind of swirl together almost. And it does help soften the edges a little bit, the way that the amber comes across. It keeps the fragrance from smelling sharp at all. And it does push it a little bit further toward that like deeper, richer side of the pool as it heads through the mid and into the dry down. And the longer it sits on your skin, the more that amber cocoon, if you want to call it that, kind of comes out. It's rich, it's indulgent, it's definitely crowd pleasing in a kind of interesting way. So this is one my wife loves. The opening, the mid, the dry down, she loves all of it. But it's sort of doing its own thing because of that maple syrup and the way that it comes across, while at the same time playing in the same ballpark as all the really vanilla forward fragrances that have come out over the past, you know, 2 or 3 years. So it's kind of walking that line, you know, crowd pleasing, yeah, for sure. But it's also different enough that when you smell this, you're not gonna go, oh, is that, you know, stronger with you, or is that one of the scandals? Is that the most wanted? You know, is that one of these other ones? No, like when this hits your nose, you can tell right away what it is, if you've smelled it before anyway. And into the dry down, it does one final shift where it comes across a little bit more restrained, at least compared to the opening in the mid, for whatever that's worth. That big maple syrup effect, which really is going to end up being the calling card of this fragrance. If people love it, it's gonna be because of that. That's gonna be one of the main reasons. If they hate it, that's also gonna be one of the main reasons. But that big maple syrup, it starts to step away. And most of the overtly gourmand facets that the fragrance has in the opening and the mid kind of go along with it. And what's left is a smoother, warmer, more trendy amber dry down. It also has a little bit of a woodiness to it, kind of an amber woodiness, which par for the course nowadays. So it's more like the amber woods right at the base of the fragrance, and then that enveloping amber sitting over top of it. And it also comes across lightly creamy when you hit that full dry down. I'm not talking full bore, you know, hardcore creamy, but it does have a nice, smooth, creamy aspect to it once you hit that far dry down. Not thick, not milky, just like a little change in the texture there. A little more polished, I guess. It's still sweet, it's still warm, but it's nowhere near as sugary as the opening in the mid. So that sweetness, like I said, more restrained, a little bit more reined in, more day-to-day wearable for a lot of people. So this is a fragrance that's gonna make some very noticeable changes on your skin. The opening kind of changes 2 or 3 times within the first 10 minutes. And then the mid is clearly different from the opening, the dry down clearly different from the mid, so this is one of those fragrances that is gonna go through a metamorphosis on your skin. Now in terms of performance, this is a 1 million, it's a Paco Rabanne. It is an elixir, it is a parfum elixir. So that kind of lets you know what you're in for. Performance is very good, especially in the opening and the mid. This stuff is pretty monstrous initially. Off my skin, it is potentially headache inducing. If you're somebody who really, like I said before, does not like sweet fragrances, overloaded sweet fragrances, you're not gonna like this, okay? If you spray it on really heavy, it has the chance to overwhelm. It can make you go nose blind. It's that type of vibe. But if you're looking for something that's really strong, this can do that for you. It also hangs around for a very long time. I sprayed this on this morning, about 9 a.m. Right this minute, it's 7 p.m. So we're talking 10 hours later. I did 2 sprays right here. And I can still pretty easily pick that up. So if you were to spray this on pretty heavily, it's gonna last. It's gonna project. And for those reasons, this is a fall and wintertime scent, which I'm sure everybody pretty much already knows, but you know, it warrants saying. Fall and wintertime, and Night Elixir is more of an evening fragrance. I know, it's insane. It does beg the question why they're releasing it now, because at least in the Northern Hemisphere, we're going into spring and then summer. This is not something I wanna wear in summer ever. And in spring, at least as of when I'm filming this video, it's 80 degrees Fahrenheit where I am. I realize not everybody is in the same spot, so some people are gonna be places where it's much colder, which I think Celsius, it's what, 26 or 27-ish? Cut me some slack if I'm wrong. But yeah, it's warm.
I'm baking like a toasted cheese here. It's so hot here.
I'm not gonna wear this. Not right now, anyway. And I feel like for a lot of people, season-wise, not the best time for this to come out. It is though kind of par for the course for brands to just release everything at the beginning of the year and then they spend the year advertising it and all that stuff. But yeah, seasonality-wise, right now, not a perfect time for this. At least not here. So all that said, let's do the pros and cons and then the overall verdict. First, the pros. It is strong. The opening is loud. It will get you noticed, for better or worse. Another thing that I really like, the opening. It's interesting. It's got kind of a root beer adjacent spiciness with a little bit of a mentholation underneath. It's kind of cool, it's different. Also, the maple syrup, burnt sugar, toffee kind of vibe gives it its own distinct personality. So I like that too. Another pro, the dry down becomes smoother, more wearable, more modern, which I guess also could be a con for some people that the dry down is not as interesting as the opening and mid, it's safer. Another pro, it has excellent real world appeal. It keeps things interesting enough, but it doesn't sacrifice wearability. Now the cons, it is extremely sweet, borderline overloaded. So if you don't like sweet stuff, this is like the 3rd time I'm saying it, you're probably gonna hate it. The next con is not necessarily this fragrance's fault, it's just the type of scent it is, but it is absolutely not something I wanna wear in summer, and in spring for the most part, I wouldn't go for this either, unless it's in the evening and it's during the cooler part of spring. And even then, I'd probably go for something else. Another con, the opening, which I really like. It's not gonna be the type of opening that everybody likes. It's probably going to be divisive for a lot of people. And the final con, people who hate the current amber vanilla trend, which has been going on, are probably gonna hate this one too. So I'm sure you guys can already tell, but the verdict for me, I really, really like this stuff. I am not traditionally an immediate fan of a lot of 1 million flankers. Some of them did grow on me over time, some of them just never really did. But by and large, a lot of the 1 million flankers outside of 1 million Privé, which friggin' ruled, Rabanne bring it back. But yeah, a lot of them I have not immediately kind of vibed with. This one, I do. I like the maple syrup. It's kind of weird. I like the opening. I like the performance. The wife loves this stuff. It's different enough that when I smell this, I immediately recognize it as 1 Million Night Elixir. I'm not thinking in my head, oh yeah, it's kind of like this mixed with that, or it's kind of like this, and this put together. This one is doing its own thing, at least with my first impressions here over the last few days. And if you don't like the opening, you can wait for the dry down, which is way safer. You know, it goes through all those different changes. So 1 Million Night Elixir for me, really, really like this stuff. And after some of the fragrances that I've tried out here lately that haven't really worked for me, this one thankfully does. All that being said though, it's promptly going to go on my shelf over here and not be worn for probably the next 7 months. So there is that. All right, guys, that'll do it for me. Thank you for hanging with me, 1 Million Night Elixir. Stay safe out there, take care of yourselves. I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.